Speaker, today is the day that the government finally releases its secret plan to fight inflation. It is so secret that there are no new measures in the plan, just a relisting of programs that are already indexed to inflation. Curiously absent is any relief from one of the key drivers of inflation, gasoline and fuel prices. Why does this government continually ignore calls to provide immediate relief to Canadians by lowering the taxes on fuel and gasoline?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, our government has made sure that we index programs to inflation, particularly because we know that at this inflationary cycle in the world economy, that is an important policy to make sure that Canadians have the money they need to pay their bills, buy their groceries, and afford their gas. And when it comes to gas, the Conservatives haven't fully studied their own policy, because we know from evidence that when you take tax off of the pumps, the prices actually don't change, Mr. Speaker. We're going to put money in the pockets of Canadians so that they can afford the goods they need, not listen to half-baked policies from the Conservative opposition.
Honourable Member for Simcoe North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure if that honourable member believes that there's collusion in the gasoline price market, but that would be a very serious accusation. Mr. Speaker, I get that this government doesn't want to listen to ideas from this side of the House, but perhaps they might be persuaded by the former Bank of Canada governor who said in order to tame inflation, we need to get oil prices down. Various taxes account for almost 60 cents a litre of gasoline. So, Mr. Speaker, how much higher does gasoline need to go before this government realizes there's a problem?
We understand that inflation is on the rise. It's a global phenomenon caused by the war, the illegal war by Russia on Ukraine, by supply chains opening up after the pandemic, and by China's zero COVID policy. Mr. Speaker, that's why our government is taking this as a whole of government approach, and that's why our budget includes a dental plan for Canadians making less than $90,000 a year, doubling support provided through the first-time home buyers credit. We're increasing the basic tax amount once again this year, and Mr. Speaker, with the Canada Worker Benefit, $2,400 per couple, $1,200 per single worker, 3 million Canadians with more money in their pocket, and that doesn't even include the Canada Child Benefit, which the other side voted against.
The Honourable Member for Kenora.
Mr. Speaker, my constituents can't afford to fill their gas tank. They're concerned that rising interest rates are going to push them out of their own home. Inflation is skyrocketing, and this government has no plan to address it, Mr. Speaker. Conservatives have proposed to suspend the carbon tax and the GST paid on fuel, and we're calling for the government to rein in spending to control inflation. Given the fact that we are in an affordability crisis, why is the government so opposed to these pragmatic measures that would support Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question, and we too are preoccupied by inflation, which we know is on the rise around the world, and it's on the rise to a lesser degree here in Canada, but we understand that price at the pump is going up. We understand the pressures at the grocery store, Mr. Speaker, which is why, with our price on pollution, 8 out of 10 Canadians receive more money. And let's just talk about Ontario, the honourable member's province. People there will get $745 more in their pockets than they pay. In my own province, it's almost $1,100. Mr. Speaker, we're focused on affordability, and we will continue to do it throughout this inflationary cycle.
The Honourable Member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
While Canadians find themselves having to choose between putting gas in their cars and food on the table, and while this government is stoking inflation with continued deficit spending, the Prime Minister says, let them eat cake. While the wine flows liberally, the board can't force one on the taxpayer's dime. Mr. Speaker, when will this government finally sober up and start putting Canadians first?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
This government is putting Canadians first, and we're always putting Canadians first. In fact, Mr. Speaker, in that member's province of Manitoba, we signed an early learning and childcare agreement where families on average are going to save $2,600 a year, Mr. Speaker. That's real money in the pockets of families. And that's in addition to the Canada Child Benefit that children under 6 for the maximum could receive up to $7,000 a year. Mr. Speaker, this government is there for Canadians, Canadian families, Canadian children. That's real money in their pockets that's helping every single day with the high cost of living. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.